Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans.
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our Nagoya Banzuke prediction episode. You will notice that this episode is coming out a few weeks later than it usually does. That is because I decided I was done giving away free correct answers to my competitors and Guess the Banzuke. So these episodes are now going to be released usually about a week before the Banzuke comes out, because that is when Guess the Banzuke entries close. So we're going to be keeping our cards closer to the chest than we used to.
But just because, just to rub it in for you suckers, we're recording it around the normal time.
Yes.
We're just not posting it. So the secret is out there. But I suppose by the time you know it's out there, it's not tormenting you anymore. I don't know. Hopefully it torments next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. As long as this throws one person off their game, they're really waiting on that Ryan analysis, then I'm going to be happy.
I was so ready to do my Guess the Banzuke entry, but I just didn't have the answer key from Grand Sumo Breakdown.
Exactly. All right, we'll go ahead, get started, and we'll start, as we always do, with the top rank. That is Yokozuna Terunofuji, who is actually receiving a demotion this basho, as he will.
Hey, do you want me to bring up the visual?
Might as well. As Terunofuji will no longer be Yokozuna Ozeki this basho. He's just going to be Yokozuna. So a little bit of a demotion for Terunofuji there. I hope he doesn't take it too personally after a 14-1 Yusho win.
Yeah. And yeah, if you are listening to this as opposed to watching it on YouTube, we do have Ryan's Banzuke up on the video if you want to follow along.
Yep.
Yeah, I suppose if you're listening to it and don't have the visual in front of you, you'll probably survive, because that's probably how you normally do it. I'm gonna shut up now and let you.
How you've always done it.
Yeah.
No different for you.
Yep.
So we move down to the Ozeki rank. We're on the east side. Takakeisho's moving back to the east side because he doesn't need to balance out the lack of a West Yokozuna. So instead of Ozeki West for Takakeisho, he'll be Ozeki East, as he staved off his Kaidoban status and secured at least 2 more basho as an Ozeki. And finally, he's got some company at that rank since he was abandoned by Shodai and Mitaki Yumi. Joining Takakeisho is the former Kiribayama and the new Kirishima. And despite having more wins than Takakeisho in the previous basho, Kirishima will be ranked lower than Takakeisho. That's because the newly promoted Ozeki is always the lowest ranked Ozeki, despite records from the previous basho.
Yeah, we've mentioned it in a couple previous episodes, but like, basically, if you are the reason that they are making a new rank, you basically are always going to be the lowest of that rank.
Absolutely. Yep. Then we'll drop down to Sekiwake, where kind of a refreshing change of pace over about the past year of creating the Banzukes.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we don't need to think at all about opening any new extra Sekiwake ranks. There's no dropping Ozeki to create a new Sekiwake rank. There's no Komosubi or Upper Megashira that had 11 or more wins that could force new Sekiwake rank. In fact, there's little to no thought that needs to go into the Sekiwake rank at all. The highest ranked remaining Sekiwake after Kiribayama was Hoshoryu, and he had the most wins, so he will just simply be the highest ranked Sekiwake. And then behind him were Daieisho and Wakamoto Haru. Both of them had the same number of wins, so there's no need to reshuffle either of them either. So Hoshoryu will unfortunately not continue his streak of consecutive bashos as Sekiwake West, as there is finally an opening for him to take the Sekiwake East ranking, and there's no one else with a better record that can possibly snag it away from him. Then we'll have Daieisho moving from Sekiwake 2 East to Sekiwake 1 West to fill the slot that is left by Hoshoryu. And then Wakamoto Haru will actually not move on the Banzuke at all. He will remain at Sekiwake 2 West. He is needed to stay there to balance out the Sanyaku Banzuke. Like I mentioned before, Takakeisho had been hanging out at Ozeki West, even though he was the only Ozeki. because for some reason you need to have the same number of Sanyaku Rikishi on each side of the Banzuke, Wakamoto Haru has to stay at Sekiwake 2 West.
And that's because if the Yokozuna defaults to the east side.
Correct.
So if there's an odd number below the Yokozuna, there'll need to be an extra person on the west side as opposed to the east side.
Right. Yep.
I'm learning.
Finally, we've been doing this for how long?
Yeah, it's sinking in.
Yeah. Drop down to the Komosubi rank, and once again, there's little to no thought needed for this ranking. Koto no Waka was the top ranked Komosubi last Basho. He had 8 wins. That's good enough to keep his rank, but not good enough to force a promotion. So he will stay at Komosubi East. And then Abi was 8-7 from Megashira 1. There's no other Rikishi with a rank and record combination that would place them in the Sanyaku ranks. The other 2 Komosubi that we had in the previous Basho both had losing records and will be dropping out. So Abi will be rejoining the Sanyaku ranks for the first time since last September, and he will be Komosubi West. So this is going to be our first Banzuke since Nagoya of last year, where we will have the typical 2 Komosubi with no extra slots. At least I believe. I would be absolutely shocked if there were 3 or 4 Komosubi on the next Banzuke.
Sure.
Because I have us dropping from 3 Komosubi to 2 Komosubi, the Sanyaku ranks are shrinking from 9 members to 8 members. So the final Rikishi, in my prediction, will be ranked at Megashira 17 West, as opposed to Megashira 17 East on the previous Banzuke.
Sure.
And this Banzuke is very similar to the last one that we had, where there were quite a few bad and really bad records in the top 5 Megashira ranks. There were only 3 winning records from the 10 Rikishi from Megashira 1 to Megashira 5, and we've already placed one of those 3 with Abi going to the Komosubi rank. So we're just going to be in a very similar situation as we were last time, of having a lot of over promotions and under demotions in the first half of the Banzuke. Luckily for you, Jake, we're not going to be running into another Megashira 5 West spot where it's just like, who the hell are we going to put here?
That's the one where you had like multiple pages of single spaced text for one rank.
Yeah, and I got it wrong. So,
And you got it wrong. Yeah, the cherry on top of that one.
Absolutely. Not to say there isn't some thought that needs to go into these rankings, but not as much as the last time, I think. At least not until we get further down into the lower Megashira ranks. But we got to work our way there, starting with Megashira 1. On the east side, there's only one Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Megashira 1, and that is Nishikigi. So he should end up as the top ranked Megashira this Basho in what would be a career high rank for him at the age of 32. So God Mode Nishikigi is going to have a real chance to get into the Sanyaku ranks after the Nagoya Basho in July.
What the hell?
I know. A guy that just last year was middling away in Juryo for the span of a year or two is now threatening the Sanyaku ranks, and Sanyaku ranks that are pretty dang strong right now. So for Nishikigi to fight his way in there, that he would absolutely deserve it. But he does have to have a repeat of what he did last Basho. I'm not sure we're going to see that.
Yeah, I had like already kind of suppressed that traumatic memory of him getting 8 wins in a row.
Traumatic for you, traumatic for me. He was my chump.
But well, okay, traumatic for both of us. You for wager purposes, and me for just like questioning the nature of reality.
So we need to find somebody to join Nishikigi at the Megashira 1 rank. There are no other Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 1, so we're going to look to the pool of Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 2, and it's a very shallow pool as there is only one option to choose from that of Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 2, and that is Tobizaru, who went 8-7 from Megashira 3 in the previous Basho, so he'll get a slight over promotion to the Megashira 1 West rank here. Then we go down to Megashira 2, and we've already exhausted all the Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 2, so we need to look to the Megashira 3 ranks to find anybody to pull up here. That deserve to be Megashira 3 are both former ozeki. Those are Shodai and Mitakeyumi. So Shodai will be dropping from the Komosubi rank after his 6-9 record, while Mitakeyumi is coming off of his first winning record in over a year, as he had a 9-6 record from Megashira 6. Since Shodai should have some Sanyaku bias on his side, but mostly because he was on the east side while Mitakeyumi was on the west side, I have Shodai landing at Megashira 2 east and Mitakeyumi landing at Megashira 2 west.
All right, not too extreme so far.
Nope, nothing too crazy. For Megashira 3, we need to look at Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 4 to fill this spot. And once again, there's only one Rikishi that fills that role, and that is Midori Fuji, who went 6-9 from Megashira 1. So I have him landing at the Megashira 3 East rank. Then we get to Megashira 3 West, and this is the first one on the Banzuke that really gives me any pause. We need to pull from a group of Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 5. So we're going to be looking at a 2-rank over promotion or under demotion here. So of the 4 Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 5, we can eliminate 2 immediately. One of them is Ura, because he had a losing record from Megashira 4 and cannot be promoted here. And the other that can be eliminated is Juryo Rikishi Konoyama, whose 14-1 record from Juryo 1 would numerically place him this high.
Holy cow. I didn't even think of that.
But we know from the last Basho that he's not going to come anywhere close to sniffing this rank.
Yeah, he's a Juryo Rikishi, not like a real wrestler, according to the Banzuke committee.
Exactly.
We can't have him up here in the single digits.
No, it just won't do at all.
That will not do.
No. So that leaves us with 2 options. That is Meisei, who went 8-7 for Megashira 6, and Asanoyama, who went 12-3 for Megashira 14. Neither would technically have joy bias, but both did fight against Rikishi in the Sanyaku ranks. Meisei had 4 bouts against Rikishi in the Sanyaku ranks. Asanoyama had 3 bouts against Rikishi in the Sanyaku ranks, so pretty even overall. But Meisei's overall strength of schedule is superior. He fought mostly single-digit Megashira, whereas Asanoyama was going up against the dregs at the bottom of the Banzuke. Both were on the east side, so there's really no help in determining a tiebreaker there. So last Basho, I said that it wouldn't matter that Asanoyama was a former ozeki and that he would not get any special treatment in his ranking coming up from Juryo. And I was ultimately right about that. But I'm not sure how true that is going to be now that he is in Makuuchi, as we do have recent precedent for how a former ozeki returning from the Juryo ranks that does really well at the bottom of the Banzuke is treated. And that former ozeki is, of course, Teruno Fuji. So Nagoya in 2020 saw the return of Teruno Fuji to the top division. He was the bottom-ranked Rikishi in the division at Megashira 17, and he went 13-2. So you would expect that rank and record combination to land around the Megashira 6 range. Instead, he ended up ranked at Megashira 1. And it's not just that he ended at Megashira 1, it's who he jumped to get to Megashira 1. So he jumped one Rikishi that went 10-5 and deserved to be 1 rank ahead of him. He jumped another Rikishi that went 10-5, deserved to be 2 ranks ahead of him. He jumped a third Rikishi that went 9-6 from the fringes of the Joy and deserved to be 4 ranks ahead of him. And he jumped a 4th Rikishi that went 8-7 from Megashira 2 East. And that Rikishi ended up at Megashira 1 West, so that Teruno Fuji could be at Megashira 1 East, higher than the guy that deserved to be 5 ranks higher than Teruno Fuji. And the only thing I can chalk that up to is this guy is a former ozeki. He doesn't deserve to be in that Megashira 6 range. We need to get him back to the top of the Banzuke to see if he can reclaim the rank that he deserves.
I forgot how ridiculous that was, going from literally the second to last guy. I just looked it up. There was one other guy at that rank, but
okay.
There was a 17 West, but Teruno Fuji was 17 East. But he went 17 East to 1 East.
Yeah.
I had completely spaced on that, but yeah, that does not seem, or it does seem like an uncannily similar precedent here, even though
Yeah.
Asanoyama didn't get the U show, but like pretty much.
Only one less win from 3 ranks higher. And honestly, Asanoyama deserves to be ranked higher on this Banzuke than Terunofuji did after his 13-2 Yusho win.
Okay.
Because
So you're saying you don't feel bad about moving him up this high?
No, not in the slightest. And Yusho, Terunofuji had the Yusho, Asanoyama didn't. Yushos really don't play a role in your rankings.
Okay.
There's some precedent, but winning a Yusho doesn't equate to an extra rank or 2.
Gotcha.
So yeah, seeing and like looking back at that, I don't think I was deep enough into interpreting future Banzukes as I am now to really appreciate how big of a jump that was for Terunofuji and like who he passed in order to get that ranking. Reading all of that now, it just seems absolutely ridiculous that something like that happened, because just from how the Banzukes have been going, that absolutely it would not happen. So I am interested to see what they do with Asanoyama, because by the logic we just laid out for Terunofuji, there's no reason that Asanoyama couldn't be ranked as high as Megashira 1. Like, as we were talking about this, I'm like, Tobizaru's getting over promoted to be at Megashira 1. Midori Fuji's being under demoted to end up at Megashira 3 East. What if we just move Asanoyama up to Megashira 1 West? Then we can put Tobizaru at Megashira 2 East. He's still getting the promotion he deserves. You move Shodai over to Megashira 2 West. That's still only a 2-rank drop after a 6-9 record from Komosubi. You get Mitake Yumi at Megashira 3 East. That's still a 3-rank rise after a 9-6 record. And then you get Midori Fuji at Megashira 3 West. Still only a 2-rank drop after a 6-9 record for Megashira 1. So you could put Asanoyama up to Megashira 1 without throwing anything off.
And honestly, sounds like it would make the rest of the stuff better.
It would make a couple of guys fit a little bit better, but you would be jumping Asanoyama ahead of Rick. Like, he was a Mega, but I still have that part in me that's like, well, he was Megashira 14, and they're not going to jump a Megashira 14 ahead of a Sanyaku Rikishi that was only 6-9 that he doesn't deserve to be ranked ahead of. So I am ultimately okay putting Asanoyama here. That's just me saying I'm not going to be shocked if Asanoyama is higher.
Sure.
We'll see. And honestly, maybe they say, no, we're not going to give him any special treatment. Meisei was kind of a fringe joy Rikishi. We're going to put him ahead of Asanoyama. So for me, the range of possibilities for Asanoyama, he might have the second highest range of Rikishi on this Banzuke. Anywhere from Megashira 1 West to Megashira 4 East. Hell, Megashira 1 East to Megashira 4 East would not shock me for Asanoyama.
Gotcha.
We'll just kind of really see how they want to treat the former Ozeki, who lost his rank not because of his performance on the Basho, but because of a suspension. And maybe part of them is like, yeah, he's a former Ozeki, but he got there because of suspension. He's going to have to earn it back. We're not going to give him any shortcuts.
That also sounds like it would be on brand as far as motivation for the Banzuke committee. But yeah, just as much on brand. He was an Ozeki. Of course he's got to go higher. Like, yeah. It seems silly, but neither of those seem out of line at all, really.
Yeah. So we go to Megashira 4 on the east side. Since I didn't have Meisei landing at the Megashira 3 West rank, and he was the only other Rikishi I was considering for that, I'm going to have him landing at Megashira 4 East, since he's really the only Rikishi available to put here. Technically, Ura is available for this rank. He went 7-8 from Megashira 4 East. We could freeze his rank here, but I don't think they're going to keep Ura at his previous rank when there's another Rikishi that can be placed there that deserves the same rank as Ura and had more wins than him. It just wouldn't make sense to freeze Ura's ranking here.
Sure.
Which means at Megashira 4 West, that is where I have Ura landing, as there's really no other Rikishi that can challenge him for that spot. So that is what our joy will look like. The joy extends down to Megashira 4 West this Basho. It was Megashira 4 East last time, but once again, shrinking Sanyaku ranks means we're extending out that joy one more spot.
Gotcha.
So the mid Megashira ranks at Megashira 5 East. We need to look at Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 6. And once again, we're left with only one option. That is Hira Umi, who went 9-6 for Megashira 9. So if he does indeed get this promotion, it would be a career high rank for Hira Umi. I think actually any promotion Hira Umi gets will get him a career high ranking, but I've got him landing at Megashira 5 East. And at Megashira 5 West, we get a little bit more desperate. We have exhausted the pool of Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 6, and there are no Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 7. So we have to look to the Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 8.
Nice.
And once again, we ultimately only have one option. There are two Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 8, but Tamawashi is one of them, and he had a 7-8 record for Megashira 7. So it's not like we can promote him up to Megashira 5,
Right.
which means our only other option there is Onosho, who I have getting a 4-rank promotion after an 8-7 record from the Megashira 9 rank, and that gets him Megashira 5 West.
That's a pretty lucky one there.
Things are going to remain lucky as we're going to stay desperate at the Megashira 6 rank, as now we've exhausted the Rikishi from the Megashira 8 pool. So we have to look to the Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 9. And Jake, say it with me, there's only one option. Once again, there are multiple Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 9. But two of them are Sadanoumi and Takanosho, who both had 7 and 8 records for Megashira 8.
So they can't go up.
We can't promote them, meaning that Oho is the only option at this point, and this would be a 10-rank promotion for Oho after his 11-4 record from the Megashira 16 rank.
So 3 higher than he would deserve, I guess.
Yes. And this would be a career high ranking for Oho as well. So we're over promoting these guys, really not under demoting anybody yet, because we do have a few guys from the Sanyaku ranks and the Joy that had bad records that we might need to look to start filling holes. Wakataka Kage, obviously absent this basho and for the next few basho due to recovering from his knee surgery, 0-15. You had Takayasu, who went 3-12 for Megashira 2. Endo, 0-15 for Megashira 2. Nishiki Fuji, 3-12 for Megashira 3. Koto Shoho, 2-13 for Megashira 5. I still think it's a little too soon to place any of these guys. None of these guys deserve to be ranked ahead of the Rikishi that we're pulling up to go into these spots. So I don't think any of them are options quite yet. But we are going to move to the Megashira 6 West rank, and we're going to get even more desperate. Well, now, because we now have to pull a Rikishi from the group that deserve to be ranked 4 ranks below the spot that we need to fill from the group of Rikishi
and
that
there's
deserve to be ranked
only
Megashira
one
10.
option.
Yes.
Oh, God, of course.
Hokuto Fuji deserves to be ranked Megashira 10, but he went 6-9 for Megashira 7. Can't promote him, which means the next Rikishi that deserves to be ranked is Hokuseiho, who went 8-7 from Megashira 11.
Wow. Okay.
So could be a 5-rank promotion from Hokuseiho here, which isn't unprecedented. We've seen and we've predicted and gotten correct these 5, I think maybe even a 6-rank promotion for an 8-7 Rikishi. It typically happens further down the Banzuke, but we're really putting it a tight spot here. The only other thing that could prevent Hokuseiho from getting this high is if the Banzuke committee decides to be extra lenient with Takayasu, who I think will be the first of those dropping Rikishi that will get placed. Mm-hmm. And they decide to demote Takayasu only 4 ranks after his 3-12 record for Megashira 2, which if that happened, would be the first time a Megashira 2 got that lenient of a drop after that record. So, wow. You know what I like to say, I'm not about predicting something to happen that's never happened since 1958. So almost 70-year history of sumo being in this modern 15 days per basho, right? 6 basho per year system. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. But we keep bringing up Takayasu, so why not put him at Megashira 7 East? Because now we're really desperate. We
I love how like there's this like really delicate analysis for all these ones, and then it's like, I don't know, screw it, let's just try Takayasu here for this one.
well, we'll get to the delicate
No,
analysis.
no, you're right. I just thought it was funny how the attitude seemed to be different.
Yeah. But yeah, we're remaining very desperate. We're still going to be pulling from a group of Rikishi that deserve to be 4 ranks lower than where we're going to put them. So there are 4 Rikishi that deserve the Megashira 11 rank, and 3 of them are real options. There is also the wild card of Waka Takakage dropping from the Komosubi rank after his injury, but we'll get into it a little bit more. I think this is too soon for him. So in addition to Takayasu, there's also Kodawako and Miyugiryu. Both deserve to be the Megashira 11 rank, which is the same as Takayasu, after they had 8 and 9 wins from the lower Banzuke. But I don't want to go with either of them because Takayasu kind of has that joy bias, and so I want to give him a little bit more of that preferential treatment, place him at the Megashira 7 East rank. And I also think Takayasu is going to go ahead of the falling Wakatakakage. Wakatakakage has that kind of Sanyaku, soft Sanyaku drop when you have an 0-15 record or you're absent for a basho. They don't fall nearly as far as you think they should. But I do think Takayasu's 3 wins at Megashira 2 are enough to overcome that soft drop for Wakatakakage. So Takayasu at Megashira 7 East is where I have them. And then we're finally going to get a little bit of relief at the Megashira 7 West through the Megashira 8 West ranks, as we had 3 Rikishi in a row get 7 and 8 records. And as has been thoroughly spelled out so far on this Banzuke, there are no viable options to force any of these Rikishi down a spot on the Banzuke. So we're leaving all 3 of them in place. So that means Tamawashi at Megashira 7 West, Sadanoumi at Megashira 8 East, and Takanosho at Megashira 8 West. This is going to help us catch up in a big way so that we do not have as large of over promotions and under demotions. And in fact, we are kind of done with those very large over promotions and under demotions. We're in a much better spot for the rest of the Banzuke here.
Excellent.
So we get to Megashira 9 on the east side. We only need to look to the last remaining Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Megashira 10. So we're not even pulling from Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 11 now, since we're finally past the point where some of our dropping Rikishi are. We can place them on the Banzuke. The first of those being Hokuto Fuji, dropping 2 ranks after his 6 and 9 record from Megashira 7. And then at Megashira 9 West, I feel like this is really the time that we can look at some of the upper rankers, besides Takayasu, obviously, who were kind of forced to rank already, to start filling the remaining holes that we have in this Banzuke. Because the remaining Rikishi that we have with winning records were all double-digit Megashira that didn't exceed 9 wins. So they're not likely to be ranked ahead of any Joy or Sanyaku Rikishi. The two big candidates for the role to fill holes in this spot of the Banzuke are Wakatakakage and Nishiki Fuji. But the order that they go in isn't super clear to me. Surprisingly, we've had 3 cases in the past 8 years where there was a basho with either a winless Sekiwake or Komosubi and a 3-win Megashira 3. So I was surprised we had that many cases within the past 8 years of that specific combination.
Yeah, that's really weird.
To kind of see how that played out. And luckily for us, each one of those cases had a different combination of who was on the east and the west side. So the first case that we had was a Sekiwake that was on the east side of the Banzuke and a Megashira 3 with a 3-12 record on the west side of the Banzuke. The Sekiwake was ranked higher on the next Banzuke. Then in the second case, we had the Sekiwake on the east side of the Banzuke again, but this time the Megashira 3 was also on the east side of the Banzuke, and the Megashira 3 was ranked higher on the next Banzuke. And in the final case, we had the Sekiwake on the west side and the Megashira 3 on the east side. So the Megashira 3 ranked higher that time. So what that tells me is if the Megashira 3 is on the same side or the east side, the Megashira 3 is going to have preference over the dropping Sekiwake or Komosubi. So in our case, Wakataka Kage and Nishiki Fuji are both on the west side. So since it's the same side, I'm going to have Nishiki Fuji taking the Megashira 9 west rank, falling 6 ranks after a 3-12 record. So what this tells me is if the Megashira 3 is on the same side or on the east side, the Megashira 3 will have preference. So in our case, Wakataka Kage and Nishiki Fuji were both on the west side. So I have Nishiki Fuji falling 6 ranks after a 3-12 record from Megashira 3 to Megashira 9 west, with some joy bias allowing him to go ahead of Kotoeko and Miyogiryu, who both deserve to be 1 rank ahead of Nishiki Fuji. I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, what's so special about him that he can't go ahead of like Hokuto Fuji? And I think Hokuto Fuji deserves to be 2 ranks ahead of Nishiki Fuji. And I don't think his joy bias is going to be strong enough to overcome 2 rank difference, where it might be able to overcome 1 rank difference when it comes to guys like Kotoeko and Miyogiryu.
Okay, that's fair.
Then at Megashira 10 on the east side, Megashira 10 has been the typical landing spot for a falling winless Sanyaku Rikishi over the past few years, and we still are trying to fill some holes here. So I'm just kind of like, why not slap a Wakataka Kage here? It makes sense. Unfortunately, he will be absent again next Basho, and he will fall down to the Juryo ranks.
Yeah, let's see, was it like 9 months or so from when he got injured is kind of the rough estimate?
I think it was a 8-month recovery.
8 months
is what they had said for him. Yeah.
So then this is probably the second of 5 tournaments that he'll miss ish. Or
yeah,
5.
I think we were looking at next January or March for his return.
Yeah,
so
that's a bummer. Yeah, we can talk about him more as we hear news on him, but yeah, that's a bummer that it's going to be the rest of the year, probably at least.
Yeah, and I really don't imagine we'll get any more news on him until probably the end of the year, beginning next.
Yeah, when he's like imminent return. Well, either way though, that's probably more a thing for like our preview episode for whenever that happens.
Yep. So there are 2 other Rikishi with just awful records still falling down the Banzuke. Endo, who was 0-15 for Megashira 2, and Koto Shoho, who was 2-13 for Megashira 5. Looking at past precedent, an 0-15 upper Megashira Rikishi does not get quite the same cushion in the drop down the Banzuke as a falling Sanyaku Rikishi would. And a Megashira 5 Rikishi with terrible records they're just far enough outside of the joy that they really don't get any bias and are not typically used as hole fillers in this situation. They typically eat that full demotion that they're owed. So I don't think we're going to be seeing Endo or Koto Shoho for a little bit while more on this Banzuke.
Sure.
So to fill Megashira 10 West, we only need to look at the Megashira, the Rikishi that deserve to be Megashira 11 to fill this spot. And it's the same Megashira 11 Rikishi that we looked at as possibilities in order to fill the Megashira 7 rank. And it's Kotoeko and Miyogiryu as our options. Both were on the same side of the Banzuke previously, and Miyogiryu had more wins, so I have him taking this spot ahead of Kotoeko. And that would be Miyogiryu rising 4 ranks after a 9-6 record for Megashira 14.
Sounds good.
Then at Megashira 11 East, since Kotoeko lost the tiebreaker to Miyogiryu for the previous rank, I have him slotted in to get the next rank at Megashira 11 East, rising 1 spot after an 8-7 record for Megashira 12. So now we're finally putting a Rikishi at the rank he deserves to go. It only took us 11 Megashira ranks to do so, but we're getting there. Actually, it's kind of Nishiki deserved to go Megashira 1. So
sure,
it took from Nishiki to Kotoeko.
I think it's funny that Hokuseiho and Kotoeko were only 1 rank apart, and they both got 8 and 7s. And now, according to this, according to your prediction, they're like 5-6 ranks apart now.
That's just how it plays out. Sometimes.
Oh, I know. It's still funny though.
Yeah, absolutely. Saying that makes me nervous, but I've got to stick with.
It's bugging you now, isn't it? Sorry.
Well, yeah, where else would we have put Hokuseiho? Like there's nothing else we could have done there. You're not going to put Takayasu there. Like that's not going to happen. It better not happen. All right. I've already submitted my Guess the Banzuke ranking, so we can't change it now.
It's too late now. Yeah, you're right.
It's too late. Then Megashira 11 West, we're getting to the part of the Banzuke where we can really start to consider the Juryo promotees, the first of which being Gonoyama, who we mentioned way back at the Megashira 5 rank. So we only have middling winning records from Rikishi at the bottom of the Banzuke left to place, and our remaining losing records to place. And Gonoyama clearly deserves to be more than 2 ranks ahead of these guys that we have remaining to place. But we have a situation similar to the previous Banzuke, where if we started putting the Juryo promotees at this spot of the Banzuke, we would then need to over-demote or under-promote a Makuuchi Rikishi, which is a situation that was avoided on the last Banzuke with the placement of Asanoyama and Ichinojo. So we're going to wait on placing our Juryo Rikishi just a little bit longer. So in the stead of the Juryo Rikishi we have 3 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Megashira 12 that we're going to consider for Megashira 11 West. Kinbozan, Chiyoshoma, and Tsurugisho. I don't have Kinbozan taking this spot, but I am a little concerned that he could get a bit of like a Joy adjacent bias and land ahead of the rest of these Rikishi, because he was ranked at Megashira 5 on the previous Basho. The other 2 we're considering are Chiyoshoma and Tsurugisho, who were ranked Megashira 13 and Megashira 15. So there's part of me thinking that big difference in rank could really give Kinbozan an edge here, but I did just talk about how we've seen previous Megashira 5 Rikishi with bad records not really get any bias on their side. So I'm going to assume Kinbozan's not going to get any Joy bias here, but I want to spell that out just in case he does go a little bit higher than I predict. And I'd be like, okay, I thought about it, just didn't quite pull the trigger on it.
Kinbozan, like, yeah, he wasn't technically in the Joy, but he did still face 2 Komosubis, Terunofuji, Takakeisho.
Mm-hmm.
How come? I suppose with like Endo and Takayasu in the Joy pulling out, I suppose he was kind of kicked up there for at least a handful of those matches.
Yep, I think that's
all right.
it.
Well, I answered my own question, but yeah, okay, we're good.
So yeah, if we're going to be removing any bias from the conversation, we're just going to look at our typical tiebreakers. So from our typical tiebreakers, we know Tsurugisho will be ranked the lowest of these Rikishi, as he was the only one of these 3 on the west side. And then between Chiyoshoma and Kinbozan, Chiyoshoma had more wins. So I have him taking the Megashira 11 West rank, rising 2 ranks after an 8-7 record for Megashira 13. I then have Kinbozan taking the Megashira 12 East rank, falling 7 ranks after his 4-11 record. And Tsurugisho landing at Megashira 12 West, rising 3 ranks after his 9-6 record. So Tsurugisho was the last Rikishi with a winning record in the top division, so we are free and clear under our basic Juryo placement rules to place Gonoyama and the rest of the Juryo promotees. The last hurdle that I really need to clear in my mind before I can place him in my prediction is whether or not a Juryo Rikishi would be ranked ahead of someone who was in the Joy in the previous Basho, which was kind of a rule that I had set for myself looking at Asanoyama and Ichinojo last time, because Ryuden had a 2-13 record for Megashira 2, and in my head I was thinking, well, I don't want to place these Juryo Rikishi ahead of anybody that was in the Joy. But now we have Endo, who had an 0-15 record at Megashira 2. So does the same logic hold for that? Luckily, there was some recent history that I was able to find that had a very comparable situation. So in Natsu of 2021, Chiyo no Kuni was ranked Megashira 3, which is within the Joy, and he went 0-15 after pulling out early in the Basho. There were also some high scores at the top of the Juryo rankings. There were 2 11-4 records and a 12-3 record, all from within the Juryo 1 and Juryo 2 ranks. On the next Banzuke, all of the Juryo 1 and Juryo 2 Rikishi that had great winning records for that Basho were ranked ahead of Chiyo no Kuni the following Basho. So for me, that gives me the green light to start placing our Juryo Rikishi. So I have Gonoyama landing at the Megashira 13 East rank. Then the Rikishi that deserves the next highest ranking is another Juryo promotee, Shonan no Umi. He went 11-4 from Juryo 1, and by the math deserved the Megashira 11 rank. That is 3 ranks clear of any other Makuuchi Rikishi that deserves to be ranked, so he should easily land at the Megashira 13 West ranking. At Megashira 14, the next Rikishi that deserves to be ranked is Haku Oho, formerly Ochiai. He is 2 ranks clear of the next Makuuchi Rikishi that deserves to be ranked, that being Daishoho, who went 6-9 for Megashira 11. But I can't really justify this one more than I still just have like this nagging feeling that it's harder for a lower ranked Juryo Rikishi to move as high into the Makuuchi division as it is for a Juryo 1 to like Juryo 3 Rikishi. So for almost no reason other than just some weird nagging feeling, I'm going to put Daishoho ahead of Haku Oho at Megashira 14 East. But I'm not going to snub Haku Oho too much, and I've got him landing at Megashira 14 West after his 14-1 record from Juryo 8.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's another one where like the logic makes sense, but it's still kind of still just doesn't sit right that Gonoyama and Haku Oho deserve to have the same amount of promotion.
Yeah.
And instead of 7 ranks apart, they are now 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
it just doesn't sit right. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like it like always, it makes sense the way that you thought it through and explained it, but I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Seems fishy.
You know what? It'll be nice for, if this is how it shakes out, those 2 guys that were so evenly matched down in Juryo to be at a similar spot on the Banzuke here coming up for Nagoya. It should be real fun to see how good those guys do at the bottom of the Makuuchi division.
Yeah, for sure. All 3 of these Juryo guys are guys that maybe less so Gonoyama, because this is kind of like one of the first times that we've really heard his name popping up. But Shonan no Umi and Ochiai, and now Haku Oho, after changing his name, those guys have been red hot. Gonoyama hasn't been, at least as far as I've seen, discussed as much. But yeah, he's clearly inserted himself into the conversation there. For prospects.
Gonoyama, let's just do a quick Gonoyama history. He debuted at Sandanme in March of 2021. His only losing record in the lower divisions was a 2-5 record in Makushita after he pulled out due to injury, but then he bounced back and got a 7-0 Yusho in Makushita, made it up to Juryo about a year and a half after his debut. He got 1 losing record, a 6-9 from Juryo 12 in his second Juryo Basho, but since then it's been 9-6, 9-6, 11-4, 14-1. So he's just been heating up.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, by all means, he's certainly gotten just as red hot as anybody else the last 2 Basho. I think that it feels like it's been a little while since we had a new generation bust into the top division like this, and all 3 of these guys at the same time would be super cool.
Yeah, between Hokuseiho, Haku Oho, Gonoyama, possibly Shonan no Umi, maybe Atami Fuji gets back up here. It really feels like we're in a big changing of the guard. We've been seeing these retirements: Chiyo Tairyu, Oki no Umi, Tochi no Shin, Ichi Nojo. Really feels like we're getting some upward momentum from some hot prospects. And
Ono Sato, he's coming up pretty quick here.
Yep, absolutely. So, and like these prospects that we're getting this year feel like real heavy hitter prospects. That we like when Nishiki Fuji and Wakamoto Haru now obviously seems like a red hot prospect, but when he debuted, it didn't feel like that. But these guys coming up from Juryo over the past few Basho, they feel like they're going to be big deals even before we've seen them in the top division. We'll see if that's how it plays out, but it's exciting. This is the most excited I've been about kind of the new guys that we've been seeing, I think, in the entire time we've watched Sumo. So I'm real excited to see how the next few years goes for these guys.
And even with those bangers of Bashos that they had last time, they're still coming from Juryo, so they're still not going to get ranked very high. But
Absolutely.
that's what we get.
If former Ozeki ranked Juryo 1 with a 13-2 record can only make it up to Megashira 14, there's no way anybody else is gonna get that much higher at this point in history. We're not in the time frame where Kakuryu can go 9-6 in Juryo and be ranked like Megashira 9 or Megashira 7 in his Makuuchi
Oh my
debut.
god.
Yeah, Kakuryu's Makuuchi debut was nuts.
There's some weird stuff back then, yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't have to do that predicting. I don't.
Yeah, we're not in the Wild West anymore. These Banzukes have rules.
That's right. So let's go down to Megashira 15. And this is a rank where I really would think hard about making the landing spot for Endo. Honestly, since like the Megashira 13 rank, Endo, as I was putting my Banzuke together, Endo is weighing heavy on my mind. It's like, I just feel like I'm booting him too far down the Banzuke because I just feel like he should get some joy bias against these double-digit Megashira, especially the two that I'm going to be putting in Megashira 15 that had double-digit losses from double-digit Megashira ranks. But once again, if we put Endo here, we would end up over-demoting either Ryuden or Takeda Fuji, who both went 5-10 from the Megashira 10 rank, and they both deserve to be ahead of Endo. So I'm not going to force that over demotion and will instead place them both at the Megashira 15 rank and keep them on the same sides they were before, meaning that I have Ryuden landing at Megashira 15 East and Takeda Fuji landing at Megashira 15 West. But then we get down to Megashira 16, and this is where I will finally have Endo land. Like I said, I'm nervous to have someone from the Joy dropping so far. I just think it causes more issues if we have him ranked higher. The only other spot that I could really think to put him, and I was very close to making the switch in my final Banzuke prediction, was to switch him with Haku Oho, because then we're snubbing a Juryo guy. We could still have Ryuden and Takeda Fuji get not be over demoted if we put Endo where at Megashira 14 West where Haku Oho is, and then put Haku Oho at Megashira 16. It would make me feel a little bit better that a Juryo 8 isn't jumping ahead of a Megashira 2, no matter what their records were. So that's something I've got my eye on when the Banzuke comes out, is where like Endo and Haku Oho will be ranked in relation to each other. But ultimately, I went with the math here more than any potential bias. So Endo at Megashira 16. I did want to throw him some joy bias, and so I have him ranked ahead of Koto Shoho, who he technically deserves to be one rank behind. That's where I'm going to let a little bit of joy bias shine for Endo here. Get him a little bit of a break, as I do have him taking a 14 rank demotion from the Megashira 2 rank. It doesn't make me feel good, doesn't sit well with me, but it was the best option that I had for him, I guess.
There you go.
And at Megashira 16 West, this is where I have Koto Shoho. The only Rikishi that deserve to be ranked higher than him are Juryo Rikishi. There is one Juryo Rikishi that deserves to be 2 ranks higher than him, but he would be coming from Juryo 8, and kind of see, I'm using backwards logic because I'm saying here I don't want them to put a Juryo 8 ahead of a Megashira 5 when I just put a Juryo 8 ahead of a Megashira 2. But we're allowed to use different logic for different Rikishi at the bottom of the Banzuke. The Banzuke committee does it. I can do it too. It's fine. The other Juryo Rikishi that could jump ahead of Koto Shoho only deserves to be 1 rank ahead of Koto Shoho. So Koto Shoho wins that battle. So if this is where Koto Shoho lands, this would be an 11 rank drop for him after a 2-13 record.
Which seems right.
Yeah. I'm not. I feel better about the landing spot for Koto Shoho than I do for Endo.
I gotcha.
Megashira 17, I've got Aoyama landing here. He deserves to be ranked 3 ranks below a Juryo Rikishi, but Aoyama was on the east side of the Megashira 12 rank, and if we put a Juryo Rikishi ahead of Aoyama, that would force him to have a half rank over demotion. And I don't like over demoting anybody in favor of a Juryo Rikishi. So I got Aoyama landing at Megashira 17 East, dropping 5 ranks from Megashira 12.
Then how come you colored him green on the graphic over here?
Because I messed up.
Oh,
Because when you copied it over, you messed up the formatting, and I had to add Aoyama back in there last second, and I forgot what color he should have been. So
no, that makes sense. Blame others for your mistake, for sure.
Every single time. What? Like I make mistakes? Unforced?
What mistakes?
No, absolutely not. It takes a severe set of circumstances, like you slightly messing up the formatting of a spreadsheet, for me to have an unforced error like that.
I'll make it nice and bright red. How about that?
Perfect. Thank you. I forgot that we could still edit that document. It
wasn't. Oh yeah, no, that's not a picture. That's just a part. Yeah. That's just part of my screen.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Thank you for making that correction.
Yes, sounds good. Just as long as I'm allowed to draw attention to it, I'm happy.
Absolutely. I will say, in this isn't like my official Banzuke prediction sheet that I put together. This is a special page that we do just for the
just to clean it up.
YouTube video. In my sheet that I have, the official sheet, Aoyama's name is red. So
of course. Okay.
Make sure we're all understanding.
Got to set the record straight there.
This is Jake's fault, not mine.
All right, who's our last guy then?
Yeah, we need to get to the last guy. So this last rank comes down to 3 Rikishi. Kageyaki, who was 7-8 from Megashira 17 East, Bushozan, who was 10-5 from Juryo 3, or Atami Fuji, who was 13-2 from Juryo 8. So Kageyaki could feasibly, with a 7-8 record, drop from Megashira 17 East to Megashira 17 West to remain in the top division. But both Atami Fuji and Bushozan deserve to be ranked 3 ranks higher than Kageyaki. So I know it's risky to do because it is Kageyaki, and he just seems to have the ability to stick around.
He's definitely got some dirt on a few key Gyojis.
Yeah. But I am going to eliminate him from consideration here. In my prediction, I've got him going down to Juryo. So that leaves us with Atami Fuji versus Bushozan. Each one has a case to be made for why they should make it to Makuuchi over the other Rikishi, but it really isn't clear cut which one will win that battle, and there is no real precedent for this kind of battle to take place. So Bushozan's advantage over Atami Fuji is that he had 10 wins from Juryo 3. Like I said, I just kind of have this unconfirmed feeling that the top 3 Juryo ranks can get preferential treatment over lower ranked Juryo Rikishi. It's something I'm just going to start paying attention to a lot more, seeing if that is legit. So kind of has like a Juryo joy bias a little bit for the top 3 Juryo ranks that could be playing in Bushozan's favor. The case for Atami Fuji is that his rank and record combination would have him 1 rank ahead of Bushozan. So in my mind, at least, this really is just a toss of the coin. But I'm going to try to make this Juryo joy bias a thing and say that Bushozan gets promoted to Makuuchi to the Megashira 17 West rank. Plus, for me, the optics are a little bit easier to stomach for having a 13-2 Juryo 8 stay in Juryo versus a 10-5 Juryo 3 stay in Juryo. Optics are just a little bit better there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you can't necessarily... like you said, there isn't like enough precedent here to have a strong opinion, but it definitely will be one to, like every Banzuke, there's at least 1 or 2 things where it's like, this is what I'm watching to learn more for next time,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have brought 4 Rikishi from Juryo in my prediction up to the top division. Once again, those being Gonoyama, Shonan-no-Umi, Haku-Oho, and Bushozan. That means we've got to send 4 Rikishi down to Juryo, or at least get rid of 4 Rikishi from the Banzuke. So
right.
We have 3 going down to Juryo, those being Ichi Yamamoto, Mitoryu, and Kageyaki. Ichi Yamamoto, Mitoryu being slam dunk cases. They are not going to be in Makuuchi. Kageyaki, not quite as big of a slam dunk, but I feel pretty safe sending him down there. And then we also have 1 spot that was opened up due to the retirement of Ichi Nojo. So, Jake, after going through all of that, I think I gave you a pretty good idea of what I think was potentially my biggest mistake on this prediction, but what are you thinking is what I potentially got wrong here?
I am going to be watching the Juryo promotion guys. I just think that that's probably the most volatile part of this Banzuke. Yeah, there's like guys that are dropping really far and stuff like that, but like those you have a lot more history to rely on and more experience with. But 4 guys coming up from Juryo, all with excellent records, and all deserving to be up in the single digits if we were doing it just by the math. Okay, well, not all of them, but
only
whatever.
Gonoyama would be single digits, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Regardless, though, like they all deserve to be like well into the Banzuke, and the way that it shook out after going through the whole thing and applying our semi nebulous rules about just be mean to Juryo guys, which does seem to hold for the most part. But
it's been working pretty well.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably the area that I am most interested in seeing how it turns out, and I think it's also where there's the most possibility for a miss by a couple ranks or something.
Yeah, I had said when we were talking about Asanoyama that I think he kind of has the second most variability in my prediction for where he could end up. I think the top variability of ranges I think a Rikshi could end up is Endo. Like I said, I've got him at Megashira 16 East. I could see him ending up Megashira somewhere in like Megashira 14, maybe even Megashira 13 ahead of any of our Juryo Rikshi. Would not shock me. So those two, having like 2 guys with like that high of a variability, at least in my head, really makes me nervous because I feel like it's been a while since I've really thought like there's like 4 different ranks that these guys could end up at.
Yeah.
When you've got that range for one guy to get it in the right spot and then to get like everybody else around that correct can be tough. So I'm worried about those 2 are my biggest worries on this Banzuke.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So this Banzuke is going to be released as you're listening to it less than a week from now. The Banzuke is going to be released on June 26th for the Nagoya Basho, which will be starting on July 9th. Between now and the start of the Banzuke, the start of the Basho, you can expect at least, I think, one more bonus Grand Sumo Breakdown episode. Hopefully, we're going to try to fit in a Tochi no Shin career celebration episode following his retirement this past Basho, and then we will have the Banzuke review after that comes out, and then we will have the Nagoya Basho preview. Jake, we're gonna have to figure something out. We need to replace Mac, as that son of a bitch is going to Japan for the Nagoya Basho, so he's not really going to be available to hang out and record podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, we could have my wife guest if we want to like increase the amount of sumo knowledge on the podcast. Like raise the average. No, I don't know. We'll figure out something fun to do for sure. But yeah, there'll probably be an amateur sumo episode or 2 here and there. By the time this comes out, there will also be the Cowboy Cup and the Riverfront Sumo Open amateur events out there to watch. Those will have both happened by the time this is released and should be available to watch the stream. But yeah, those are Riverfront is big. That's like the biggest Midwest event of the year, at least so far. I think there might be we'll see how the fall goes. Maybe there's more coming, but the Cowboy Cup is one of the biggest in Texas. Last year, that was I don't want to try and grab numbers off the top of my head, but yeah, that one was huge. That one was a blast. That was Dallas Sumo Club's first big event, and now this year it will be their 3rd big event, and they've just crushed it every time. So
if people want to watch the Cowboy Cup, when and where should they look to watch that?
Well, it's too late by the time this is coming out.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot.
Go look up.
We're delaying the release of this.
We just went over this, man.
Yeah, I know.
I believe Riverfront will be on the Grand Rapids or Chicago Sumo Club Facebook page. That's where they put it last year. The Cowboy Cup, I know for sure, is going to be up on the Dallas Sumo Club YouTube page. But yeah, check those out. If there's still time for you to make plans by the time this comes out, try and get to Des Moines on July 8th for a sumo camp hosted by Grand Sumo Breakdown. We've got a handful of local guys that are coming out to try sumo for the first time, and we are working to get a few guys from around the country to come and pay a visit and help us get us started here in Iowa. So reach out if you got any questions on that for sure.
All right. So that is going to wrap up our prediction for the Nagoya Banzuke. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast listening service. You can find Grand Sumo Breakdown on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you see us on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, smash that notification bell.
You had to be one of those YouTubers.
You were literally just about to say it too.
I was going to say it much more sarcastically.
Yeah, but honestly, if we want to actually increase our YouTube footprint, that would really help increase our YouTube footprint. So in all sincerity,
allegedly,
please like our videos and subscribe to the channel. That would help us out greatly. You can check out our blog at grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com. We have an email that you can send any comments, questions, or corrections to. That is grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com. Or if you would like, you can leave us a voicemail at 805-613-7866. That is 805-613-SUMO. We've got a lot of sumo coverage coming to you in the next few weeks leading up to the Nagoya Basho. And thank you for listening to this.
You almost stuck the landing on that.
I almost did. I was doing so good for a while.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high.
and keep moving forward.